But Ruthann, while we're waiting for him to
Yes,
jump
ma'am.
right on, did we do our opening prayer?
Yes, we did. All done.
Okay, because I was not listening. I do apologize. Do you see him jump on his head?
Let's see,
Okay.
hold on. No, he's not here yet.
Okay. Well,
Our speaker is though.
The guest speaker is. Okay, what we're gonna do, we're gonna get started because I told him 8:20, and probably that's what's taking him time to come on. So what we can do, we can start with our guest speaker, and then when he jumps on, if our guest speaker doesn't mind, he can give his testimony afterwards, or if he would like before we do our question and answer period. So without further ado, I would love to bring to the call an esteemed gentleman who I happen to have met through someone else, another esteemed person here in the Bahamas. This gentleman is a diabetes educator. And before I do this, I would like you to do this, please. Send out those last links. Send it out to your business partners. Send it out to your families and friends. Just type in, I love you, I care for you, you need to hear this, get on the call. We've already started. Get them on this call because we don't want anybody to miss this call. This is a very, very important call where a person should be on the call. So without further ado, I'd like to bring to the forefront Mr. Philip Duncan. He is a diabetes educator, and he's also a pharmacist. He's been a pharmacist for many, many years. I don't want to say how many years. He'll say it because then sometimes when you say how many years somebody was in the field, you all start taking out the calculator and trying to calculate their age. So I'm not going to allow you to do that tonight to Mr. Duncan, only if he wants you to. So without further, and he's also a staff pharmacist at one of our greatest pharmacists here in the Bahamas. I would like to call it the greatest pharmacy in the Bahamas. Hope I don't get in trouble for that. But I'd like to bring one of the staff pharmacists to the forefront, Mr. Philip Duncan. Have you made it to the call?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Take us away.
Okay, diabetes, one of the major health concerns here in the Bahamas. Diabetes defined as high levels of sugar in the blood. There are several different types, but the three we focus on is gestational, type 1, and the main culprit and the one that affects the largest sector of the diabetes population, maybe 80 to 90%, is type 2. And like you said earlier, type 2 diabetes is not inherited. It's something that you acquire through lifestyle missteps, or say lifestyles that are not appropriate for healthy living. We as Bahamians, our diet, our inactivity tend to contribute significantly to this epidemic of type 2 diabetes in our country. The thing about it is that we may have 20 to 30% of our population with type 2 diabetes, suffer from type 2 diabetes, but we have, and that may be 1 out of every 4, but we have pre-diabetes, which is not addressed the way it should be addressed, that actually leads straight into diabetes. And that combine the two, and we're looking at maybe close to 50% of our population who are currently sick or who are on the way to being sick. And with diabetes, comes high cholesterol and at times hypertension. Now, I want to focus on prediabetes because diabetes has a history that starts with insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a term used to describe excess insulin needed and being secreted by the pancreas to deal with the amount of carbs that we consume and the sedimentary lifestyle that quite a few of us lead. So we eat our macaroni and cheese, a peas and rice, a plantain, potato salad, coleslaw, and our protein, but we're putting a strain on the body to compensate for so much carbohydrates. The portions are too big. What you're eating, the type of carbs you're taking in is complex, and it puts a stress and strain on the pancreas. Now, prediabetes and this insulin resistance is the cause of prediabetes. So we have excess insulin in the bloodstream because you're working your pancreas, and the muscles that are actually supposed to be utilizing the sugar, the glucose, the energy, is not recognizing the insulin because the abundance of carbs. So you have storage in the liver, you may end up with fatty liver, and you end up actually your body trying to manage and reduce the amount of sugar in the blood will turn it into fat. So that could go on for a while, but 10 years before you're diagnosed with diabetes, you can actually have developed, even 15 years, develop insulin resistance. And this can go on, like I said, it could be 15 to 10 years old. And 10 years out of being diagnosed, you can start to develop problems, microvascular problems, where you have arteries and nerves being damaged. Getting closer to diagnosis, you can have macrovascular diseases, which involve the eyes, the feet, kidneys, and also lead to cardiovascular problems or cardiovascular disease. And then once you've been diagnosed, this is when you start having symptoms, because you weren't having symptoms before. You start having symptoms, urination, increased urination at nighttime, daytime, high volumes urination, and there's some other symptoms. But the important thing is that once you've been diagnosed, your pancreas, the beta cells that produce your insulin, 80% may have been destroyed. So you may be down to just 20%. And to come back from 20% is hard. Your beta cells do not regenerate, and patients have to notice. So, the goal is to get the insulin down, and the approach by doctors is to put them on tablets at first, metformin, glucophage, to actually control the amount of sugar being released by the liver. And then they may be put on other drugs, secretagogues, that actually force the pancreas to make more insulin. And sad to say is, even for the time when you were given this medication, and maybe in the foreseeable future it works, but eventually, because of the stress added to the pancreas, beta cells continue to die. And eventually, if we're going to maintain the treatment and keep the sugar levels low, or in the range that the doctor may decide is appropriate, you're going to end up on insulin. Or if you don't end up on insulin, because we have a lot of patients who refuse to take insulin because they think it's a not a death sentence, but it's something that they just don't want to do. Things get worse because there are complications that comes along. You have blindness that can come. You can develop kidney disease, cardiovascular disease. You can have amputations, all because of damaged nerves, damaged blood vessels. So tonight, I want us to not just look at diabetes as the only problem we have. Pre-diabetes is a major problem. And before I forget, diabetes also affects the brain. So we have young individuals, when I say young, in the 60s, brilliant minds that get destroyed by either excess sugar or too much insulin in the bloodstream. So diabetes it's not a disease that we can ignore because it's having a great impact on the memory banks of citizens. We're losing individuals prematurely. And during this pandemic, we found that a large percentage of the individuals who pass away were due to complications, either diabetes or complications that they developed because of diabetes. I don't want to go any further. If anyone have any questions, I'll try to answer. But I want to stress the importance of us as professionals, as educators, to bring awareness to the tragedies in with this disease, and that let it be known that it can be avoided. We don't have, not because your mom or your dad have diabetes, mean that you have to get diabetes. It is a progressive disease, but it is a disease that you can slow down at a pace to reduce any major complications, whether it's micro or macrovascular problems involving the arteries, the veins, the nerves, your vision, even cavities. People lose their permanent teeth or their mouth because of diabetes complications. Infections to the gums because of high levels of sugar. And what happens when you lose most of your teeth out your mouth? You can't chew your food, so nutrition becomes a problem. And then there's a vicious cycle there where you're not going to get sufficient nutrition and other problems develop. So we need to bring awareness to lifestyle. We need to bring information to our citizens, people, that changes can be made and outcomes can be improved. We don't need people on dialysis. We don't need people suffering from cardiovascular disease, ending up with stroke and heart failure, all because we don't know what and when to put the correct food or nutrition in our mouths. Education is key. And I want to encourage everyone who's listening to me to, if you know of someone who's a diabetic and they don't have their sugar under control, ask them to seek help from an educator or someone who has knowledge of the pathophysiology of diabetes, who can explain to them what is going on, what changes they need to make. If you have friends or loved ones who are related, who have first-degree relatives who suffer from diabetes, encourage them to go and get an A1C done. Checking your fasting glucose is not sufficient. It does not detect problems that exist with postprandial or after meal glucose levels. And A1C can give you a better indication if you're pre-diabetic, but also there are other markers that you can look at. If you're overweight, if your BMI is over 28, if your waist circumference is for male over 40, for female over 38, these are the things that will show that you should be concerned and you should check with your physician to see if you're at risk, because those 3 markers actually show that you may be at risk, and this disease can be avoided. It's not a life sentence if you get it, but we need to be proactive in getting our people to realize the significance of prevention, and prevention is better than cure. And once we get this disease, this is one of the diseases we could eradicate. But we need everyone on board. We need the government, the churches, schools. We need to educate our people on what it is to live healthy lives, prosperous lives, long lives. Any questions? Hello?
If anybody has any questions, you can raise your hand and we will just unmute. So, or yeah, we'll just unmute you. So if you have a question, please, or put it in the chat and then I can ask him. But absolutely amazing information. Bunch.
Okay. I can also, as a diabetic educator, our sole purpose is actually to.
Okay, hold on. Let me.
I think Dr. Ruth dropped. So somebody continue, please.
Okay, can anybody hear me?
You can hear you.
I can.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, we have a question from Mr. Brackett. Mr. Brackett, can unmute your mic? Sorry about that, my internet dropped me. Mr. Brackett, your hand's up. You can unmute your mic. Okay. Miss Naomi, you can unmute your mic.
Hello?
Go ahead,
Hello?
ma'am. Go ahead.
Good
Go
night.
ahead.
Good night. Good night. Good night. A very interesting topic. I'm happy to
Good
hear
night.
this. Good night.
Good night,
Because
ma'am.
I seem to be experiencing all of those things you're talking about. Right now, I have the numbness of my toe, my right toe. My mouth is always sweet, and I'm urinating a lot, and I'm here like while he's speaking, I say, Lord, I said, so how do I reverse it? How do I reverse this thing? He got all the answers. How do I reverse it? And I'm happy that you gave us a chance to get those little questions in. How can I reverse it? Because there are times when my eyes do feel a little blurred a bit. And don't talk about
Miss
my
Naomi.
memory. My memory is acting crazy.
Hi, Queen Naomi. There's Adley here. How are you?
You little sweet thing, you. Mwah. Just loving you, baby. Thank you for wishing me my happy birthday. Yes,
And
yes,
happy birthday.
this the happy
And
birthday,
happy
girl. That's
birthday.
me. That's me. That's me.
Happy birthday. My question to you, have you
That's a
ever had
65-year-old lady,
glucose?
huh?
Yes, ma'am. Have you ever had your glucose tested? Your sugar tested? Because we say
Yeah,
we in the
many
Caribbean
times,
like to
and
say sugar. Huh?
yes, and for years, it used to be like elevated, and then it would drop down and would go up and it would drop down, you know.
Yeah. So the best thing to do with that is to first of all have your primary physician do a A1C, as Mr. Duncan was saying, on you to actually see where you are. Sometimes, as he was saying, when you take the glucometer reading, it doesn't necessarily say where you're at. The A1C is the best thing. And Mr. Duncan, will we be
Yes,
doing
ma'am.
A1Cs or just glucometer reading on Saturday?
We're looking into getting a A1C machine. So we should be able to do A1C on Saturday.
Okay, so for y'all in the Bahamas, at Prescription Parlor Pharmacy, East Street South, this Saturday and next Saturday, we will be doing free testing. And we also will be doing free blood pressure and weight. And we will be giving you what we call a passport. So a health passport, so you will know your numbers. You know, as we said in the video together on this call, you have to know your numbers. And persons from other countries on this line, because when you just say one country, some people just get offended. So I would advise you to ask your healthcare professionals in your area, or if you are a healthcare professional on this line, this is diabetic month. Get involved, get persons tested so that they would know what their numbers are. Because what Mr. Duncan said earlier was that we found out that many of the deaths due to COVID was for persons who had high blood sugar levels. And some persons did not even know that they were diabetic or that their blood sugars were elevated. That is why it is very important to know where you are at. And so we're going to just stick a little pin in there right now. And we're going to come back to those questions to have a short testimony from a gentleman who is a part of Sankey Global, who is our international sales a sales director, but he's going to tell you how he got there. He was not always in the business part of it. He was on the other end of it. He was at the other end looking for a way out of no way. So I'm not going to spoil his testimony, but I'm just going to bring him to the screen. And he's also a former professional athlete, and he owns his own businesses. And girls, when his man come on the screen, don't look at him too hard, man. He is married, and he's married to a Caribbean woman, so you know how we go. So I'm gonna step on the way of the greatness again, because we just have gentlemen on this line tonight, and we're gonna allow Mr. Tim Trahan, King Tim Trahan, to come to the call just for a second, and we're gonna just be asking him and Philip Duncan some questions after this testimony. So, Dr. Ruthann, can we bring Mr. Trahan up to the call, please?
Hey, Donna Lee, I'm here. Can you hear
There,
me?
he's there.
Can you hear me, Donna
Yes,
Lee?
we can.
All
Yes, we
right,
can.
all
Take
right,
it
all
away.
right. Well, man, welcome, guys. I tell you, I was able to jump on and hear the testimony and just some really good information that Mr. Duncan talked about. And hey, listen, guys, everything that he said is absolutely 100% fact, right? I've been diagnosed as a diabetic since about 1995, and like Donna Lee said, a former professional athlete, so I've always taken pride in my health and wellness. I was one of those guys that never cheated, right? I used to look at the bottles of cough medicines just to make sure that none of the things in that cough medicine was on any other list of banned substances. So, I've always taken excellent care of my health and wellness. And, when I was diagnosed in I believe it was 1997, I believe it was, with diabetes, I was actually just flabbergasted. I'm like, well, man, God, well, why me? Like I've done everything right my whole life. I'm a professional athlete at the time. I ate well, I exercised every single day. But guess what? When you're genetically predisposed to certain illnesses, some things just happen to pop up. And when you're a professional athlete, you get used to eating a certain way. And that was me. And being on the road a lot of the times, sometimes we go for the quick fix. And if you're not a multi-million-dollar athlete at the time, and I definitely wasn't that, you don't travel with your nutritionist. You don't travel with your chef. So a lot of times you're eating what's available when you're on the road. Now, of course, when I'm at home, of course, I ate absolutely pristine at home. But when you're on the road, sometimes you can't eat that way. And, you get used to eating a certain way. So in 1997, guys, I was diagnosed with diabetes. And, it kind of blew me away. And especially me being, who I was, I didn't even really want to talk about it, right? Because everybody expects you to be the epitome of health. And when I stopped playing football, I still ate the same way. And, so 1997, guys, was a critical year for me. I noticed myself like some of you guys. I just heard the young lady speaking about, going to the bathroom a lot and the numbness in her toes and all of that. That was me. I felt all of that. Like I would be driving down the street and all of a sudden, my baby toe on my right foot would be numb, almost to the point. It was like, when you were a kid and you used to wrap a rubber band around your finger and got that numbness feeling at the tip of your finger. Well, I would feel that in my toe, and I didn't understand what was going on. And then I was waking up in the middle of the night a lot of times and just urinating a lot and waking up in the middle of the night when my mouth was severely dry. And of course you have that sweet taste in your mouth that just never seems to go away. And that was me. That was my existence. And I went to the doctor, and guess what? I was diagnosed with diabetes. And like Mr. Duncan said, first they start you off with a couple of different pills, and then you progress to the metformin, and then you progress to the insulin. And that was me. That was my story. And when I got introduced to this company, guys, I was looking for answers. I had asked to come to Florida to take a look at a company. I had been actually retired from the network marketing industry at that point for about 6 years. I had come to the industry many years ago, and by the time I was 28 years old, I was retired from corporate America. So the industry of network marketing was absolutely fantastic for my family and I, but it didn't prevent me from being stricken with diabetes, right? All the money that I made, and all of that stuff, it didn't stop me from being able to contract this disability, is what I like to call it, right? This thing that just turned my life around. And I was looking for answers. I was, severely depressed, that nobody knew I was depressed. And I just needed something. I needed something to help me. I needed something to help me figure out. And when Dr. Helen De La Houssaye asked me to come take a look, I was like, man, if this company is what she says it is, then I'm 100% in. And not from a network marketing standpoint, not from a business building standpoint, but just to turn my health around. And I came in and they asked for volunteers to do this micro scan. We have what's called a micro scanner that shows you how to actually look at the capillaries and tell, if you have inflammation and lack of circulation in your body. And guess what? I knew I had inflammation in my body. As a matter of fact, while I was sitting there, I was swollen from right below my knees all the way to the tips of my toes. But guess what? I had on long pants. Nobody knew that I was suffering from severe inflammation. My fingertips on my fingertips were numb. The tips of my toes were numb, but nobody knew that, right? That was something that I kept a secret. The only people that actually knew this was going on were folks in my immediate family, my wife, my kids, and my brothers. They knew that I was suffering like this, but nobody else knew. Right? I was this former professional athlete. That's not something that I wanted to talk about, but it was nonetheless, it was going on in my life. And I came in, they gave me the scan, and the first thing that the gentleman said that scanned me was like, wow. But he didn't say wow as in a good thing. He was like, wow, like something was going on. Right? So I asked him, I said, well, what's happening? He was like, man, you're suffering from some serious inflammation. You see all this greenish yellow stuff on the screen. I said, yeah. I said that. He said, that's inflammation. I said, okay. And I right then and there, I was like, wow, my eyes kind of perked up, because I knew, yeah, he's right. I knew I was suffering from inflammation. And then he see these little black dots. He said, you see these little black dots? And I said, yeah, I do. I see the black dots. He said, those are your capillaries, but they're not supposed to look like that. I'm like, really? He was like, no, they're supposed to have like little loops. They're supposed to look like figure eights. They're supposed to look like they're growing fingers. He was like, so basically what this is showing me is not only do you have severe inflammation, but you also have a lack of circulation. He was like, drink this liquid. It was in a green cup. It was a 4-ounce cup, as a matter of fact. They were passing it out to everybody as samples so everybody could try it. And I drank it. Now, mind you, when you take one packet of the Belage, I know it's the Belage now, but at this time I just called it that green substance. But when you take one packet of it, you're supposed to mix it in 12 to 16 ounces of water. So pretty much a bottle of water. I had it in a little 4-ounce cup, right? And I drank it. And he said, what I want you to do is come back in about 15 to 18 minutes, and we're going to scan you again so you can see what's happening on the inside of your body. And I said, okay, well, let's do that. So about 15 to 18 minutes later, I came back, and this is real time, guys. This is not something that was a steel frame. This is real time. I came back and he scanned my finger again, guys. He scanned it again. And what did I start to see? I started to see the inflammation dissipate, right? That greenish yellowish substance had started to go away. Okay. And then I started to see those little black dots. I started to see them what they call form loops, which means my circulation was improving right there. The inflammation was going away right there. And I had only drank about 4 ounces. And then the biggest thing was you start to see these little things run across the screen. I was like, well, what is that, man? It looks like a little bug. He said, man, those are parasites. I said, parasites? He was like, yeah. And the parasites do not like what is going on in your body right now. Matter of fact, they're trying to get away. They're trying to get away from the Belage. So at that point, I knew that this was real, right? I knew it was real. So I began to take that Belage and the Inner 7 and the Chrome Wheat, all of the actual formulas that the company offered, and I did it. And 30 days later, guys, I had a doctor's appointment, and within that time frame, the doctor was like, well, I don't know what you're doing, but your blood work is looking really good. We're going to take you off this metformin. So somebody asked on here, about metformin. And I'll tell you guys, metformin is not the best medication to take for prolonged periods of time, because it can do damage to your kidneys. And I had been taking metformin at that point for a couple of years. And I knew that metformin was not the best, but I didn't know anything else to do, because the metformin was actually helping me to keep my blood sugar in control, but it has some debilitating effects. So I knew that was one thing that I wanted to get off of. And when I went to that 30-day follow-up with my doctor, the first thing that he did was take me off the metformin, and he took me off another medication. Now, mind you, I was on 5 different medications, three medications for my diabetes, 1 medication for my high blood pressure, and another medication for high cholesterol. And I was also suffering from an inflamed prostate, which I refused to take medications for that, right? But nonetheless, my prostate was inflamed as well. So 30 days, I'm off the metformin, I'm off the high blood pressure medication. Okay, and then when I went back again in another 30 days, they took me off of one of the insulins that I was on, as well as the cholesterol medication that I was on as well. They took me off of that. So by my 90-day follow-up, guys, I was only on 1 insulin. And guess what? You know what the doctor told me? He was like, well, really, we don't want to take you off of this insulin, but I only want you to take it as needed. So what does that mean? If I had spikes in my blood sugar, guys, I would take the insulin. If I didn't have spikes in my blood sugar, guys, I didn't take the insulin. And I'm still at that point today. So I went from 5 medications that I was taking, guys, all the way down to 1 medication. And guess what? The last time I went to see my urologist, guys, guess what? My prostate is no longer inflamed. So I don't have an inflamed prostate anymore as well. Matter of fact, I go to the bathroom very easily. Now, for anybody that's on this line tonight that's dealing with prostate issues, you know what I'm talking about when it feels like you can never really empty your bladder. Like your bladder just never really seems to empty out, right? That was me. Like it didn't matter how often I went to the bathroom. At some point in time, it felt like I had to go urinate again. Well, guess what? I don't have to worry about that anymore. It doesn't feel like that anymore. And it's because of these formulas and what it is that they're doing. So am I saying that this is a miracle supplement? No, that's not what I'm saying, because I did go through a lifestyle change as well. I started eating better. But what I do know is these formulas absolutely 100% helped in my journey, because I didn't start changing my lifestyle until I started seeing the effects of what these formulas were doing. And then I coupled it with a good lifestyle, healthy eating lifestyle. And I did start to exercise more as well. So what am I saying, guys? If you do the right things, your body will regenerate itself. If you put the right thing in, you'll get the right thing out. So everything that Mr. Duncan said is absolutely the truth. When you do the right things, guys, coupled with the right nutrition, coupled with what we have here with Sankey, it will absolutely turn your life around. And not only for me, for my wife. My wife was a chronic insomniac, guys. When I tell you she couldn't sleep all night, she really couldn't sleep all night until she started getting on a healthy regime of the Sankey formulas, right? My son, who is 14 years of age, guys, but he's been taking these formulas for 2 years consistently, and he very rarely even has a cold, right? And then, of course, my grandson is just turned 5, and he's been taking the formula since he was actually 2 years old. And guess what? He's a chronic asthmatic, right? Genetically got it from his dad. And guess what? Very seldomly does he have to worry about his asthma. So let me tell you something, guys. These particular formulas and what they do and how they help you are absolutely magnificent. So listen to the folks that are on here tonight. Listen to Donna Lee and everything that she's saying. Listen to the professionals that are on here that knows exactly what's happening in your body, okay? Because if they can tell you what you need to do, then you need to follow the instructions, right? And it's just absolutely incredible what these formulas have actually done in my life. Absolutely incredible, and I love it. And I could talk about this all night. So with that being said, guys, I thank you for allowing me to share my testimony with you guys, share my story. Just let you know, I was that guy. I was the guy sitting there with lack of circulation and chronic inflammation issues on 5 different medications. And now I'm down to 1. Absolutely no inflammation at all, right? Feeling good, living my life to the best that I could possibly live. And guess what? I know that the Sankey formulas have a lot to do with all of the things that we're talking about tonight, guys. So like Donna Lee and everybody on here said, this is Diabetes Month. So we want to definitely make sure that we tell you the things that you need to do to be able to reverse that diabetes. So what people need to know, guys, diabetes is not a death sentence, right? A lot of people get depressed and they think real negative about it. It's not a death sentence. All you got to do is do the things that your body needs it to do, and your body will reverse those symptoms and help you to be on the right track on its own. But you just need to do the right things, and adding the Sankey formulas to proper diet, proper exercise, the proper amount of hydration, all of those things, man, when you combine it to what it is that this company has from a formulation standpoint, you'll definitely get better. So with that, I thank all you guys for allowing me to speak tonight, and hopefully I said something that sparked something in your mind and to make you just think about things a little bit differently. And hopefully you'll see it like I saw it and do like I did and just jump all the way in and take these formulas and allow it to do what it is that we know they'll do for you. So with that being said, guys, God bless, take care, take charge, and I turn the call back over to you, Donnelly.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much, King Tim, for just opening up and sharing with us your testimony. I know a lot of persons, they're going to be taking crumbs from this call. They're going to be taking the droplets. I hope, I tell you, whenever y'all come to a Monday night call, bring your pen and your paper. Take notes of what's going on. This can change everyone here on this call live tonight. So before turning it back to Mr. Duncan, I'm going to bring one of our partners, because we're all partners, to the call. I know she knows that I'm not going to call on her, but I'm going to call on her tonight. I'm going to more and more. She is also one of my business partners, along with Mr. Duncan. Ms. Mortimer, I would like for you to actually express to the persons on the call what these products have been doing with patients who have diabetic wounds and other wounds, if you wish to touch on it, just in about 2 to 3 minutes for us. What you've seen it done. Dr. Ruth, if you can unmute her mic for us, please.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, good night, good night.
Good night. Good night.
Hi. I came on a bit late, but I've been listening to my colleague, Mr. Duncan, and I'd just like to say that I endorse everything that was said, and I do believe that diabetes is reversible. We just have to actually maintain healthy living, change our lifestyle, eat well, healthy, and exercise. Now, with the Sankey products, I had several patients that had diabetic ulcers on their legs, and I've tried the Balage on them, not directly on the wound, but with them ingesting the Balage. And they took it, I had one patient that took it once a day, and she was a diabetic. She was on insulin at first when she started the product, and for some strange reason, she got an infection before I saw her, and that's how she was referred to me. Well, I put her on the products, and like she said, she had the Balage in the morning. She was also hypertensive. So I recommended the Crenu at night as well. Okay, so I was trying to take care of her diabetes and hypertension all at the same time, and then trying to heal the wound on her foot. Eventually, after about 2 weeks, she said she started feeling better. Her blood pressure was going down, and her glucose level, which she checked every morning, was decreasing. So she decided to continue the products, and long story short, her wound went from stage 3 ulcer, which included, I don't want to get into too much of it, but it was a fairly deep wound, the epidermis and deep into the dermis. Okay. It went from that to actually a stage 1, and it is almost completely healed now. And I'm talking roughly about 6 months. There was another patient that she was a diabetic with had been tested for kidney disease, which she was having challenges with, not on dialysis. And I had her for she had a diabetic ulcer that was a stage 2 as well. And she was on the products daily. She was not hypertensive. So she was only on the Balage. And she decided to take the Balage for twice a day. So what the Balage did for her was it actually controlled her blood sugar levels, as well as it improved the healing of her wound. And I've known her but I've been treating her wound for I'll say 8 months. It's just now epithelializing, which means that the top layer of the skin is being regenerated. And so that is almost completely healed. And I've had several other patients that was on the Balage as well as the Crenu that I've seen very good results with. So I would say to you, if you know anyone with wounds, diabetic wounds, or any other ulcers as a result of poor circulation, you can just have them see the doctor or consult also a Sankey rep, and we will be able to guide you as to what to take and how to take it. But I do endorse the products 100%. Thank you, Mr. Donnelly, for the opportunity to share.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And so between you and Mr. Duncan, could you all actually elaborate on, no, first of all, let me get these questions answered. I see 2 people I'm gonna ask. Let me see. I'm gonna unmute Mr. What's his name? Mr. Brackett. You can unmute. See if you can unmute for me, Mr. Brackett. Marva, can you unmute Mr. Brackett for me, please? Because I'm trying to get him unmuted, but I can't get him unmuted.
I'm trying to. Let me try again.
Mr. Brackett, can you unmute? Okay, there you go. If you have 2 instruments on, you can turn one off, please. It's gonna echo.
What is wrong with phone? Nurse Donnelly.
Hi.
Hello. I don't think he has a question. I don't know what's happening to his phone, but he keeps getting this hand raised or hand low or something. I don't know. But he doesn't have a question. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Nice to see Mr. Headley. Mr. Headley, I'm going to ask you to unmute. I'm clicking on. Can you unmute Mr. Headley for me? Mr. Brackett, you can mute. Okay, let me mute you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Headley? Marva, could you unmute? Because I don't know what's going on with me. I can't get him to unmute.
I just sent him a message to unmute his mic.
Or Mr. Brackett?
He doesn't have anything. It's a mistake.
Okay, so Mr. Headley is not unmuting. All right, so okay.
Maybe he's not looking
Anybody
at the
else? I don't see
screen.
anybody else. Yeah, I don't see anybody else with a hand up.
If he's not in the right screen, you won't see it.
Okay. So actually, on Saturday and next week Saturday, for those of in the Bahamas, especially on Nassau, we're gonna be carrying on this celebration of Diabetic Month, and I want Mr. Duncan and also Nurse Agatha to actually state what will be going on Saturday for us, please.
Actually, Mr. Mr. Headley has questions in the chat.
Headley has a question. What is the question that Mr. Headley has in the chat? Can you read it for us, please?
Yes. He's asking, how does one manage diabetes and depression? He says he's asking because
Mr.
he's going through it.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Duncan, you want to take that for us, please?
Yes, thanks for the question. Now, as a diabetic educator, our approach to educating persons with diabetes is a collaborative, comprehensive, patient-focused approach. I say collaborative because we don't work alone. When it comes to depression, in any illness, chronic illness, we have to be continuously medicating yourself. Medication fatigue, so many things come into play with our psychic, and depression is one of those. So what we do is actually make a referral to a health professional like a psychiatrist or a psychologist to assist the person with any type of, whether it's depression, any mental concerns that may be going on, if it's emotional or mental, but we do referrals. So that would be addressed if, because it happens. We all get tired and we feel defeated. So you just need help. And sitting down and talking to someone who could advise you on how to re-strategize and come back strong. The psychologists and psychiatrists, yeah, they do a good job of that.
Mr. Duncan, I know you said psychologists and psychiatrists, but with people of color, because most of the persons on this line is people of color. We have people from the US, people from Jamaica, Canada, from Trinidad and Tobago, from St. Lucia, the Bahamas, and Barbados on this call. And, you know, in our society, you know, we have this thing when we talk about psychologists and psychiatrists, we think it's, you know, it's a stigma, but could you actually speak on that just a little for us, or Nurse Mortimer, as it pertains, because everyone needs help. Everyone needs help. Everyone comes to that place, especially if you have an illness where you need help. And so could you talk about that for me? Because a lot of persons there, they say, oh, I'm not crazy. Going to psychologist or counselor does not mean that you're crazy. So could you just break that down just a little bit for our panelists, please, and for our guests?
You want me to answer that, or Ms. Monaco?
I'll share a bit
okay,
of my knowledge as a nurse. Well, actually, good health is basically not only a state of body, but also a state of mind. So sometimes you might find someone with their bodies are in a well state, or what we call a healthy state, but it's something that's bothering their mind. Just like how you go to the general medicine physician if you have hypertension or diabetes or chronic kidney disease. The mental health professionals, they're there to help our mental state. Like my colleague said just now, sometimes we may get depressed about a situation that's going on in our life during the time. Even worldwide, we're now in what we call a pandemic. A lot of persons are experiencing stress because of maybe the world have been shut down for a while, with persons being laid off from their jobs or not even being able to go to work. You know, we had emergency declarations in a lot of states and countries, which prevented most of us from actually going out to work. Persons, you can become depressed or have something going on with your mind for simple reasons. So I don't think I shouldn't say I don't think. I don't think actually that going to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, there's a stigma attached to it or it's a bad thing. If you feel that you don't want to share it with someone or you're ashamed of going to a psychologist, you can actually sometimes call a friend, someone that you can actually talk to. You can seek advice sometimes from your pastor or some social group, professional group. And because sometimes when we feel that we're in this fight alone, and sometimes not until you share your story, then you find out that there's someone else with you. Say, wow, I thought I was going through something, and the other person is, you say, wow. And you look at them like, wow, we can hold hands and, your story is a bit worse than mine. And things like that will actually promote a sense of well-being mentally and also physically, so don't be afraid or feel ashamed to sometimes say your story, because sometimes your story could be an inspiration to someone else, So it's not to say that you're actually crazy. I think that's something of the past, though. I don't think much people this day really look at depression as being something that is a condition to be ashamed of. The depression can come as a result of, like I say, whatever challenge that is going on. Some people handle it well and some people don't. Some people can talk socially to colleagues or like I say, to your pastor and be fine. Others, it's basically a state where they're so deep that they need to be referred to a psychologist or a psychologist. And sometimes it's just exchange and therapy, mind therapy, and all of that, and diversional therapy. They do things and say things to divert your mind from actually what is going on or to help you to deal with the situation. Okay, so that's my take on it.
Thank you, and oh Lord, sometimes because I'm gonna take off my nursing hat for a second, and I'm gonna put on my minister's hat just for a second, guys. Just for a second. So just bear with me. Who's on the line? Please just stay because we're gonna end in just a minute here. But I want to just add something to what Nurse Mortimer was saying. And I want to speak to some persons on the line right now. And I'm going to tell just a little short snippet of my story. I was going through a relationship issue and also having what we call postpartum depression. And Nurse Mortimer, she knows about it because we are not related, but she was the closest person to me at that time. And at that time, I thought my whole world was coming to an end. I did not even want to hold my newborn baby. My brothers were concerned about me because I wasn't answering the phone and they was wondering what's going on. They came to the house with their wives and they break the door down because they heard my baby crying, screaming at the top of her lungs. I just sat and she was in the room, in the crib when they found her, where she was crying so much. She had a fever and she was vomiting because I was in deep depression. I was taken to a psychologist and I was put on Pax. And that psychologist, on my fourth visit, he said, guess what? I'm not writing another prescription for you because you're becoming dependent. See, As long as you stay in that situation and in that frame of mind, and do not know that there's a higher being that you could depend on so that you can get out of that situation. Sometimes we have to change our surroundings. We have to change the way we think. We have to change the situation that we're in. But sometimes it only comes through prayer and through the grace of the Almighty God. Sometimes, and guess what? Every situation that you're in, if it's illness, if it's relationships problems, if it's postpartum depression, it's for a reason. It's for a reason. And every bad situation that is happening with you, you are to take, it's for you to have a learning experience and to take something from it. And now I knew what my calling was. My calling was to go through that so that I can help others who went through, who are now going through the same thing that I went through. But sometimes I know it's hard, and it seems that there's, it seems like there's no hope in this dark space. But there's someone called Holy Ghost, and that psychologist that I went to, he believes in God. And some of us may not be, have the same God, but guess what? Whoever your God is, know that he can take you out of every situation. God was able to take me out of that situation when I started to turn to him. I had the funds to move out of that situation and move on with my kids. Some of us who have illnesses, we are here with Psyche Global. And in my pregnancy, I had pregnancy, pregnancy-induced hypertension. And after I had my last child, that thing was holding on to me. And when I got on these products, after 13 years of having pregnancy-induced hypertension, and then it went into full-blown hypertension, I was a mess. And when I went on these products, I was able to come off a hypertension meds. And one thing with that Belage, the Belage helps with depression, it helps with anxiety, it helps with Alzheimer's, and it helps with dementia. Yep, that Belage, that same green drink. And as Nurse Mortimer said, sometimes, we have to talk to someone. You can't keep it all in. I have a daughter who's 13, and parents, yes, I have to say this to you. When your children come and they feel like venting, listening to your kids. Sometimes I don't listen, but guess what? I sit down and I just let her blow off steam, let her vent. That's the same way how we as adults need that person who we could confide in, because we're something called human. We need human interaction. So we need that person who we can confide in. And sometimes until you can find that person that you can confide in, there's a higher power. There's a higher power that we can just sit down and talk to. So in the closing of this call, I would like you to please become a part of this movement called Psyche Global, because we have here some products that are changing people's lives for the better. And we also, on our next call, next Monday, we'll also be talking about the Psyche Fit program, like how Mr. Duncan was saying, you have to change what you eat. We have a healthy lifestyle program called the 10D program, which in 10 days, You will see a difference in your health. You will see a difference in your numbers. So get back to your Sankey rep about that 10B system. And if they cannot explain it, they will get back to Dr. Ruthan, Mr. Trahan, Sankey or Marva or Clive Campbell or Beverly Holness or myself, and we will explain it to you, how you can get to a better. So we're not just looking at the physical here at Sankey Global. We're also looking at the mental. They help to hydrate those brain cells. But as I said before, find that one person. I found my one person who God has assigned to my life. And she has been, and I want to take this time to honor her as a friend. And that's Agatha Mortimer. When I was going through, she was there for me. She was there. She was that listening ear for me. And I would like to thank her for being the person that who she is, and for God sending her into my life at my darkest time. And we all have that angel, that human angel who God has assigned to our lives. Find that one angel and talk to them. And you know you can talk to them, and whatever you tell them stays there. Find that one person. If it's your pastor, if it's your friend, your sister, your mother, your brother, your cousin, it's somebody who you can talk to. Don't keep it all in. Because when you keep it all in, it builds up pressure. And you don't need that. And when I say pressure, that's psychological pressure. And don't overthink things. But sometimes when you overthink things, you go and you come back mentally. Find someone to talk to. I didn't know that this call was going to lead to that, but some persons on this line needed to hear it. So with that said, I don't know if Dr. Ruthan is available. I know she wasn't available earlier because she had an emergency. If she is available,
I am here. So I will close it out by one saying, please get back to the person that brought you to this call. Please, please, please let them know that you want to know more. Either you didn't get enough information on this call and you need to know more information, or you want to get your hands on one of the amazing products that we were speaking about tonight, which were specifically the Balaj and Cornu. But I also want to invite you to tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, Bahamian, Jamaican, Canadian time, because you know this daylight savings time just made it all crazy. So 9 p.m. Trinidad and Tobago time, Barbadian time, but 8 p.m. Bahamian time, Jamaican time, Canadian time, or Toronto, as Marva would say, Toronto time. Please get on this call tomorrow night. Same link, whatmakesmehuman.com. It's our 1-year anniversary for the microbiome. The microbiome movement that started last year with the guru himself, King Clive Campbell. So I want to invite you back tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Bring a guest, guys. But with that being said, by now, I know you've gotten either enough information to get back to the person that brought you to this call and say, listen, I need some Crenui in my life because I am, I have diabetes in my system and I need that assistance, or you need the Balaj. And with that being said, Queen Marva, can you close us in prayer, please?
Okay, I'm going to close this portion in prayer, but there's another call that was scheduled for 9 o'clock. So those folks, if they're on, please stay on. Lord, we thank you. We thank you, Lord, for all this information. Thank you for your love, oh God. And thank you, oh God, for the presence, oh God, of our guests tonight, oh God, who have enlightened us, oh God. Diabetes, oh Lord, is not the easiest thing to work with because we're never told the importance of how to treat ourselves. But thank God for this platform, oh God, that we're getting the information that we need, oh God. And it's coming and coming and coming so we don't forget it, oh God. So thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you so much for everything, Lord. In this we praise. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Guys, like she said, there's another.
Good night,
all. Like she said, there's another call. So for those that are not on that call, you can either stay or drop off. So have a great one, guys.